Ladies and gentlemen, Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 6 is in the books, and here to tell us all about it is IGN LA's Eric and Joshua. Boys, how are you?
We're pretty good, Greg. How are you?
I can't complain. It's sad to see Sam Witwer out of a job again. It keeps happening to this guy.
That's true.
Joshua, was this a satisfying end to The Clone Wars?
I think so. I think it was a great way to go out. They didn't plan on it. You know, this is just 13 episodes, a truncated version of Season 6 that they were originally planning. But the way they went out, we got some answers to some long-awaited questions with the Sifo Dyas plotline, and it went out with a really touching note with the Yoda episodes.
So, Eric, do you agree with, like you guys are saying, right, Season 5, they were like, all right, stop doing it, finish what you have in the can, we weren't sure how much we were going to get. Are you happy with how it ended?
I am, and I guess I should say that we might get into some spoiler territory here. I thought that, look, the show was supposed to go on at least a couple more years, and there's always going to be that, oh my gosh, we didn't get to see this story. I liked how Season 5 ended, though, with Ahsoka, and I thought this season, while it did ultimately, feel like what it was, which was 2/3 of a season, there was still some really good stuff in it. Showed how far the show had come artistically, and yeah, really the first arc and the final arc were big ones for Star Wars fans. They kind of dealt with big things, Order 66, how the hell the whole Force Ghost thing worked, and I was really glad to see those topics covered because this show had done such a good job of kind of filling in those gaps.
Well, you're painting a rosy picture here of everything getting tied up nicely. What were we left hanging on? I mean, you only had 13 episodes. It was stopped abruptly. What are we missing, Mr. Goldman?
Well, going in at least, I think we were pretty prepared because it was pretty obvious what wasn't going to be in the season based on the trailer. And that was, look, hanging over the show were a couple of what the hell happened to questions with some characters. Because if they're not in Revenge of the Sith, where do they go?
Right.
And there was Ahsoka. I feel like Season 5 answered that question. Yes, I want to know what happened to her next. But Season 5 showed you why she wasn't in the Jedi anymore, why she wouldn't be in Revenge of the Sith. So on that score, I was okay. But Captain Rex, that was the big one, I think. He was there side by side with Anakin the entire series. So what happened? He's not there in Revenge of the Sith. Something happened. That was the big one to me. And the other unfortunate one was Darth Maul, who they brought back. Controversial, but I think most people thought they did it well. But then we don't get to see in the show what happened to him.
Joshua, agree or disagree?
I agree. The big one for me is Darth Maul. But the one thing that's going to hold us over is that they're actually going to release a comic book of the Darth Maul story that they were going to tell eventually. So I think that's great. And it will be reviewed here on IGN Comics.
Oh, well, there's a plug. Don't forget about IGN.com for all your Star Wars news and updates as we go on. I mean, guys, the fact that there are loose threads, it's kind of the way with the expanded universe. Doesn't this just leave it open that for maybe a couple years from now we get another Clone Wars movie or another book or something like that?
Well, I do feel like Disney, they bought Lucasfilm. They announced episode 7, 8, and 9. I think for now they're done with the Clone Wars prequel era. I think they're heading towards episode 7. They've got this new show Rebels coming, which takes place 4 years before the original Star Wars, before New Hope. So I don't know if we're going to go back to Clone Wars anytime soon after that comic book Joshua was mentioning. But I think it is important to remember that, a couple things. One, characters, you don't have to always see them die. They can just come back in different adventures, hence Ahsoka. But also, Rebels is being done by Dave Filoni, who did Clone Wars, and a lot of the same people. There is no way they're going to just let every plot thread go. They're doing a show that's set, 16 years later? It's so simple for them to say, hey, let's pick up with this character 16 years later. They can pop up on Rebels now.
Yeah, there'll be a ragtag group of just Darth Maul, Ahsoka, and Rex, and they'll meet the Rebels. One episode, they'll meet the Rebels cast. It'll be great.
They'll say, we've been traveling for so long,
For 16 years.
For 16 years.
So how infuriating was it that there's only 13 episodes, they've got to go out, and somehow they fit a Jar Jar storyline in all this?
Well, I don't know how Joshua feels on the Jar Jar subject. I will say for me, you had to be accepting of the fact that they had no idea when they were making these 13, they'd be the final 13. Because, if they were told you only have 13 episodes left and you can start from scratch, I'm guessing Jar Jar doesn't make it in, or he certainly doesn't get 2 episodes where he's such a focus. I will say, I didn't need Jar Jar to ever be a part of this show. Those 2 episodes, for what it's worth, they were pretty entertaining.
Eric, you watch your tongue.
Thing. I'm not saying I like Jar Jar.
You better not be. I'll end this interview right now.
Joshua, what did you feel on the whole the Jar Jar of it all?
I mean, there's only so much like what I call it clumsy fighting I can take, where he sort of accidentally takes out a whole like group of guys with like a spear or something like that. But the saving grace of the episode was Mace Windu. He didn't really get much love throughout the Clone Wars show, so I was really glad to see him, having that big epic magic fight against Mother, what was her name? Mother Talzin, with his purple lightsaber. So, if there was enough Mace in there to make up for the Jar Jar.
And we did get to see Jar Jar Binks kind of making out with a female alien.
I know, that's what I've been hankering for since episode 1. That's all I want to see. Ears get tangled up. All right, so from the lows of Jar Jar Binks, and Eric Goldman, you be quiet, the lows of Jar Jar Binks. How great was it to finally see Mark Hamill show up? One of the higher parts of the season.
I was actually a little disappointed. I mean, it's really cool to have him on there, of course, but he was Darth Bane, and they had so much like evil voice filter on there that I didn't even know it was him.
I had been told beforehand that he was going to be there, so I knew I had to listen for him. I agree there was a lot of filter on him, and I wonder if that's because they didn't want people to be like just the instant he spoke. Mark Hamill, I did think it was awesome to have him there. And, there was something kind of perfect about the fact that since the show began, people have been saying, get Mark Hamill on there. The dude's integral to Star Wars, and he's this animation legend at this point. And so they did get him on there right at the end. They didn't know it was the end, but they got him on there. And I think it was awesome. He was playing Darth Bane, who's this crucial villainous part of Star Wars history, because in animation, let's face it, Mark Hamill is all about the villains and Joker and all these other characters. So that kind of felt like a cool nod to everything about Mark Hamill's career, the Star Wars side and the animation villain, and he got to be on there playing it all.
See, Joshua, you're a hater.
I needed subtitles.
You're a hater. It was a cool addition. That's all it was, Joshua. It was another layer on the cake of Clone Wars.
Yes.
So then, when you talked about a second ago, the Star Wars history, all this stuff here, what is Clone Wars, the animated series, what's its place in Star Wars history? How do you think people are going to look back at this, Eric?
I think, people look back very fondly on Clone Wars. And first of all, of course, there's going to be the kids who grew up with it, because this show's been on for 6 years, and it has been like leading a lot of kids into Star Wars. It's all they know of Star Wars for some kids. For those of us who are adults already, I think there's going to be a lot of fondness for it because, A, the show got better and better, lots of cool Star Wars stories, and also it's kind of the show that carried the torch in between two eras, because when Episode 3 ended, we didn't know we'd ever get another Star Wars movie.
True.
And as it turned out, now we're going to get a ton. But Clone Wars was, for all those years, was kind of like, okay, this is the Star Wars story we're going to tell right now. And I think we'll look back and kind of see that it was a very cool way to tell some interesting Star Wars stories. And I don't want to diminish it by saying, well, we're waiting for the next movie, but to say that, in fact, it did a great job of showing you could tell these cool stories in a very different format than the ones that we were used to with Star Wars.
Joshua, what do you think?
Yeah, I really when Clone Wars first started, I wasn't like that into it because I felt like it was aiming sort of beneath my like interest and like age range. But as the show went on, more and more episodes got like more mature, and they started addressing more things that were like interesting to me as like a fan of the older films. So it started to like bridge that gap, and I really got into it. And then it's really the place to go to see like all sorts of different stuff that you've always wanted to see from Star Wars. Like we talked about like Darth Maul and his brother, and that was really cool to see. And just like crazy things, like there's that one alien Jedi who had like 4 arms and he was wielding like 4 double-bladed lightsabers. Like that's just the stuff of like Star Wars fantasy. There was like that war of the Boba Fett's with the Mandalorians were fighting each other. Like it was great, So there's a lot to love in Clone Wars, and I think people will definitely like look back on it very fondly.
And let's not forget, this is the show that took Ahsoka Tano, a character that a lot of fans were very dubious about at first, and made her so awesome that she once leapt up and decapitated 4 Mandalorians at the same time with her lightsabers.
that brings me to my final question. It's a wild card for both of you. Looking back at these 6 seasons, what's the most memorable moment for each of you? What is the one when I say Clone Wars, 20 years from now, somebody will say Clone Wars 2, and you're going to be like, this thing happened?
For me, it's the season 5 finale. I wrote a list of the top 10 episodes going into season 6.
A lot of plugs on this episode. I do a show called Up at Noon. You should watch that as well.
But I'll probably revamp that list now that we've seen season 6 at some point. But I named the number 1 episode The Wrong Jedi, which is the season 5 finale, which tells you what happened to Ahsoka. And I do think it was a really emotional episode. You cared a lot about what was happening at the end as Ahsoka said goodbye to Anakin, left the Jedi. And I think the two things that stand out to me are, one, it's just really emotional and effective, and two, that it was Ahsoka, a character like I just mentioned, that going into the show, I was like a lot of people going, oh, who's this 14-year-old whiny kid? And by the end of the show, I thought she'd matured a lot, the show had matured a lot, and I cared about her story. So as much as there's so much badass moments, Joshua just mentioned a lot of great kick-ass moments. You can make amazing reels of this show, of amazing things with Sith and Jedi. But Ahsoka and Anakin's sort of emotional farewell at the end of Season 5, I will say, is like the pinnacle of Clone Wars for me.
Joshua?
I gotta, you're not gonna be surprised, but I really loved the Darth Maul stuff. When they brought him back, I was very, very skeptical of how they would handle it, but they did such a good job. They found him in this tortured state, and he had this disgusting, awesome, robotic spider body, like his lower half, because his legs got chopped off. And he was like a lunatic. He was unrecognizable to who we knew. But they brought him to like the Force Witches, and they like worked their mojo on him, and he came back as the Darth Maul we knew, but with these like crazy, awesome robo goat legs. And his brother, he had like half of his lightsaber, of his original lightsaber, that cut in half by Obi-Wan, and it was just great to see him back. And that all made sense, and it all tied together, and it was really strong writing, great acting. So I was that's gonna be my favorite thing that I tell people about.
Awesome.
Yes. Sam Witwer, another shout out. He was awesome as Darth Maul.
Yes.
He's an all right guy, that Sam Witwer.
Yes.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of both you, Eric, and Joshua. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Ladies and gentlemen, what did you think
May
of...
the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you. Oh my, you're so polite to thank me. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think of Star Wars, The Clone Wars? Let us know in the comments. What are your favorite moments? What is your favorite episode? Then make sure you keep coming back to IGN for all the news about these Star Wars.